You know what always cheers me up? Rolled up aces over kings. Check raising stupid tourists and taking huge pots off of them. Playing all-night high-limit hold'em at the Taj. Stacks and towers of checks I can't even see over. And Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
A third of the people love you, a third don't care about you, and a third hate you. So you concentrate on the third that love you and you go for it.
I think the greatest Achilles heel for leaders is they don't give themselves time to think.
So my journey is one of those, like there are a lot of detours. There's a lot of going off on the side roads.
Thrive Out listeners, you're in for a treat. We're here with Jamal Mashburn,
Jesse Itzler,
the John Maxwell,
Jackie the Joke Man Martling, New York Rangers great Mike Richter,
Lisa Lampanelli,
Mary Carrillo.
Oh, how nice.
I'm actually going through the practice of being an entrepreneur.
Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and thrive loud.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
I love it.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I am your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a woman on a mission to humanize the workplace by igniting intentional leadership. She is a catalyst who brings out the best in people and organizations so they can lead intentionally, connect effectively, and thrive relationally, emotionally, and physically. Now you're starting to realize why she's on the show, people. She was recognized as a 40 under 40 game changer by Workforce Magazine, and Employ Humanity named her one of 7 wellness leaders making a positive impact. Thrive Loud listeners, Rachel Druckenmiller. Rachel Druckenmiller, how are you today?
I am really stoked to be here. I think this is an awesome way to start my day.
So I'm going to kick things off for our listeners because for those, and they we'll tap into this. Rachel describes herself basically as the unmuted life. Mm-hmm. Can you share where this all came from? Because I think it's pretty powerful, and I think our listeners will love a little bit of your story on what that's all about and how that really relates to what our program is about here today.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us, we silence ourselves in some way. So we silence our thoughts or our feelings, and we don't speak up about things or, ask for promotions or share when we're hurt by somebody, because we're afraid of rejection or we're afraid of judgment or we're afraid of being embarrassed or losing status or having a relationship get damaged. And so we end up muting ourselves in some way.
So when you say muting yourself, like literally meaning we just don't speak out? We don't speak up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And we also don't express ourselves. Like I think we mute our voices, we mute our pain, and we mute our joy even. Wow.
Okay. I like that. I don't like that we're muting that, our joy, but I like where you're going with this. So in reality, there's something about us that do that. I'm going to dive right in here. Why do we do this?
Well, I think it's because the primary motivator, I think, is fear. There's fear of something. So it's fear of one of those things, right? It's fear of someone's going to judge me if I speak up or if I show up as I am, or if for me, it was singing, right? I love to sing, but to an audience of one and not in front of anybody, because it leaves you open to judgment. God forbid, people might judge you. Oh my goodness. And then
so the fear of being judged, the fear of maybe just being different.
Yeah, being seen as different. Because if you're seen as different, then maybe you don't fit in. And if you don't fit in, you get kicked out of the tribe. And that's like our ultimate fear is that, like, hey, if we're not in the tribe, we're alone and we have to fend for ourselves and we're not going to make it. So I think it's really like a primal fear that it activates when we're silencing ourselves. And I think it's like a really real thing, this visceral feeling we can have about, gosh, I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to fully be myself expressed. I'm not going to share what I think or what I feel, because it's just safer. It's just more comfortable to just fly under the radar.
2 questions related to this, Rachel. What do we lose by muting ourselves, and what does the world lose?
We lose opportunity, I think, at work. I think of one of the things I learned to do from the time I was, in my early 20s, was I learned how to negotiate, which is something very few people, much less women, learn how to do effectively. Mm-hmm. And I know that, for instance, I wouldn't have gotten as far as I did in my career, financially or in terms of opportunities. I think that when we silence ourselves and mute ourselves, we end up with disconnection in relationships because we're not actually sharing what we're really feeling. And we, like Brene Brown says, we've got armor on and we've got masks on. And so people are only seeing like a curated version of who we are, the version of ourselves that we know is going to get approval, and anything that somebody might not approve of or might not like about us, we're like, well, we're just going to keep that hidden just so that we can feel accepted. But it's not even a full acceptance, because it's an acceptance of like a version of ourselves that's not fully who we are.
So I guess, and now I'm going to expand upon that. So now if we individually are not fully expressing who we really are, and where I was getting at with this is, where does the world miss out on this?
Yeah. I mean, really the world misses out on an opportunity, I think, for creativity. I think the world misses out, when people don't show up. Like I think of myself in this journey that I've had as somebody who, I loved to sing, but I wouldn't do it. And I think of I loved, to share. I had lots of deep thoughts, but I avoided every public speaking and theater and debate. Any class where you had to speak, I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And now I think of the ability to reach and impact the lives of thousands of people. Like it's selfish. It can be, I think we think about it this way, it can be selfish to mute ourselves because we're more concerned with our comfort than we are concerned about transforming or impacting or inspiring or empowering or reaching the world with a message of our own journey, our own struggle, our own transformation that could then inspire and open up a different reality for somebody else. We're robbing them of that experience of their own transformation when we silence our own journey.
Oh, I love that. Rachel, what was your turn the volume to 10 or 11? What was there a moment that you realized you needed to unmute yourself? Is there a specific thing you could point to, or was it over a period of time?
I mean, it was over a period of time, and it's funny because I look back and I think sometimes we mute ourselves in certain ways and we don't mute ourselves in others. So sometimes we're really comfortable like being who we are, for instance, maybe in artistic expression, but in our relationships, we silence ourselves. So it's not that someone's necessarily muted across all areas. Sometimes, like I was very confident in school, and so I was comfortable using my voice to raise my hand and speak up and ask questions and answer questions and that kind of thing. But I was not comfortable sharing vulnerability in my friend groups, for instance, right? So, or again, using my own expression of voice. So I think, remind me of your question again. I was going somewhere with that.
Well, no, I was trying to see if there was a certain moment in your life that made you say, hey, I need to unmute myself. That's where I was trying to, was there something? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say there's two moments that come to mind in particular. They're all in different ways. So in terms of the way that I unmuted my singing voice was I had studied abroad in Spain in college for my fall semester. And that culture, the Spanish culture, is alive and unapologetically so.
Right. It's
vibrant, dancing, music, colors, food. I mean, everything about it is just a rich culture. And I came back and I was in gospel choir and I was like, I'm going to do this solo. Like, I'm going to try out for a solo. I had been terrified to do this my whole life, but I'm going to do it. I had this like new fire in me, And the ironic thing is I had been diagnosed with acid reflux and I had that for 10 years. And so it's like, I had a literal and like this metaphorical fire inside of me that just wanted to get the heck out.
That's pretty funny.
And I did, and so I let myself sing, and then I sang I had a solo in every other concert after that. And then that's how my husband and I connected through music, and I've sung with the band at my best friend's wedding, and I have a couple things on recording working through my church. And so that was one catalytic moment that I remember. Something changed. It was like, I decided that who I was, the shy, quiet girl who doesn't sing in front of people, that identity had its time, and that wasn't going to, in a moment, I was like, I am choosing to not be that anymore. And I'm choosing to be somebody who lets myself use my voice publicly.
I like that a lot. And now you're using it publicly in many different forums. Maybe you could share with the listeners a little bit about, I guess, the message that you speak about. Because I think that's really impactful for what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really about. I know we've talked about this. It's like if I could frame unmuted in another way, I would say it would be thrive loud. Like that's like to be unmuted is to thrive out loud. And, I think it takes, several different forms. And so one of the things that I've been doing, one is just so many people are struggling with stress and anxiety and overwhelm and the disruption to their lives. And so one of the things that I'm doing a lot is around resilience. And this is, coming from somebody who burned out and got mono at 32 and then got hit by a car a month into COVID and had a spinal fracture. And is recovering from that.
We're going to hit that in a minute, by the way. So put a pin on that one, but yes, keep going.
I feel like that song, like the I'm still standing, like that is how I feel. I'm like, I am still standing. I am still here. And so I speak about resilience and how we can shift our mindset to focus on, because what we focus on expands, and how can we focus on taking in more of these life-giving things instead of staying entrenched in everything that isn't working and everything we don't like. It's a very possibilities-oriented, kind of positive psychology influenced approach. And I really find that people are hungry for this. They're like, teach me how to not lose it, Rachel. And so it's that for me. I'm doing that around resilience and talking about how do we refill our cup so we have something to give from, and then how can we restore and foster meaningful connection and collaboration in the midst of what is likely going to continue to be forever in some regard a virtual environment. How do we do that? How do we leverage the collective wisdom and collective voices of the people in our organizations and associations so that they are co-creating the future of where we're going instead of the old top-down command and control approach. So it's been really exciting to see through workshops and keynotes and those kind of conversations and facilitated experiential learning sessions, just to see how unlocked and how incredibly creative people are. It's a lot of fun.
It's interesting because I recognize the challenge that companies have as it relates to having all your people be unmuted, right? You want to create a culture that isn't just everybody thriving loudly and shouting every minute. So there's almost this controlled way of showing this uniqueness, this creativity, and how you channel it. And like yourself, I've been in companies, and there's that incredible energy that happens in working, whether in a workshop or in a speaking engagement or a virtual meeting, that you can energize people within the moment.
Yes.
How do you help organizations continue to keep that unmuted moment, if you would, extend so that they have permission to do so in a way that works best for those organizations?
Well, one of the things I do is I kind of, after I've done something, I teach people kind of the process behind what I did. So oftentimes when we're in a workshop, we experience something like, that was really cool. Wow. Everybody talked, everybody shared. And then you just continue with content, or people just keep, sharing their ideas, but they don't understand why it worked. So I like to tell them why it worked. And so part of it is one of the things I've learned from some of my own training through a group called Exchange is that equal voices lead to psychological safety.
Oh, I like that.
So when we give people, and we have this incredible experience and the opportunity in an online world to give equal voices with breakout rooms and giving everyone the chance, even if it's for a minute or two, everyone has the same prompt. Everyone, they get to reflect on it and think about, what their response is so they don't get caught up in groupthink. And then they get put into a room of maybe, 3, 4, 5 people to talk about it. And then they come back into the main room, and then whoever wants to share gets to. So the people that are perhaps maybe often more extroverted, that are very comfortable talking in front of people, are more apt to share in that. And then otherwise I say, hey, let's capture what we talked about in the chat. So anybody who maybe doesn't want to share publicly, no big deal, drop it in the chat and let us know. So I think we have this new way to collaborate. And by teaching people what I'm doing and saying, hey, look, this is a process you can replicate. Get people to reflect, get them to connect in small group, get them to report out and share. So as I'm as much, I feel like now more than ever before, I'm teaching people, I'm taking them through that process, and people don't often realize how much of an art and science facilitation is. They're like, right? They're like, oh, that just went so well. It's like, yeah, there was a lot of intentionality and thought behind everything I did.
I want to know what you do, and understanding a little bit. I want to pull the curtain back and have our listeners understand a little more about you. Mm-hmm. Rachel, I love asking guests on this program. We all have days where we're not kicking on all cylinders, and maybe where we feel like we need to be muted. And we want to try and get ourselves to figure out how we can thrive loud or unmute ourselves. On those days, though, when you're not quite kicking on all cylinders, what practice do you preach, or what individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Well, I'd say one of the things music just lights me up. So I have certain playlists, whether it's like, like a Justin Timberlake, Can't Stop the Feeling. Like I think one of the things I learned from Tony Robbins, right, is when you change your physiology, you change your psychology.
Right.
And so by getting into a mode where I have a song that literally like shifts my posture in the moment, gets me singing along with it. When we sing properly, we actually are typically breathing really effectively as well. And when we get our breath more regulated and calmer and more steady, that naturally helps to bring us out of that state of either fear, anxiety, or frustration. And so part of it is I'm a really big fan of using music, or the song Call Me Al by Paul Simon, one of my favorites. Using music as a way to shift my mood in a moment is one of the best ways that I can think to do that. And then I just sing, belt it out, and I just feel it's like a stress relief too. So it does a lot of things for me.
I like that. We have a lot of people who use movement have answered that question, where they physically run, they go for a thing. But I that's a very good point, that music moves us. And obviously that quick analysis about that singing is using breathing properly is really sharp. That is so true, because it's really actually gets you in rhythm.
Yeah, and you breathe diaphragm. I mean, if you're singing, I mean, I'm trained in some ways singing, but when you're really singing the most effective way, you're engaging in diaphragmatic breathing, which is the type of deep breathing you want to do that you engage when you're in meditation. So it's like almost a form. Singing is a form. There's a way you can activate. It's called your vagus nerve, right? Which is this nerve that runs from your brainstem to your digestive system, that basically activates the part of your nervous system that tells you you're safe and you can calm down. And so singing or humming or chanting or doing things like that activate and strengthen the vagus nerve. So to get sort of nerdy for a second, it does have a really strong scientific basis behind why music can be so effective at getting us to de-stress.
We're going to get to that in a little bit in our fun section, but I do want to hit one thing before we do all the admin part of the show. You had mentioned this, that right at the beginning of COVID, you got into an accident. Can you share the story and what happened?
Yeah, sure. So just when I thought I'd stood back up, right? Because as a speaker, like, we've talked about this, that, business just vanished in the blink of an eye in the middle of March, and you're left sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I have to pivot. And so that was naturally the option. There was only one option. It was pivot. And so I had just flipped my business around and taken everything virtual. I was feeling really good. And so I had some physical energy to get out. And my husband and I were out on a run, less than a mile from our house, crossing an intersection where there was one car. It was a Chevy Silverado in the right lane, and we had the right of way. And as we're running across, my husband goes first. I'm really close behind him. And for whatever reason, the driver decides to take a right turn when I am directly in front of the truck. And I went up on the hood a bit, like it was probably 2 or 3 feet off the ground. And Silverados are big. I'm like 5'4", so it's not a winning fight there.
It's not a winning fight for anybody, by the way.
Like, this ain't gonna work. And so when I landed on my feet so hard and in such a weird way that it sent a jolt up through my spine. I kind of ramrodded my legs into my spine, and I ended up with a compression fracture in my T12 vertebrae, which interestingly is at the base of your rib cage and where your diaphragm connects to your rib cage. So
singing must have been challenging initially.
Yeah, it was painful because you have to breathing properly.
Right.
I couldn't sing full on. Let's put it that way.
Are you okay now?
I'm recovering. So it's apparently bones take, like 4 or 5 months to heal. So I'm still recovering. I go to physical therapy 2 hours a week and I'm kind of relearning how to trust things. My brain is still on high alert. And so I'm easily startled. So it's going to take time and a variety of different modes of, healing support to get to a place where I think I feel normal again. But I've got to say, I feel like just this work that we do around resilience and around thriving, I had done so much to set myself up in terms of building up a support network of people around me, being intentional about noticing and focusing on bright spots in my life, the things that were good, and taking care of my physical health leading up to all of that, that when it happened, I feel like I was stronger and could more easily respond to something like that without totally falling apart.
Let's do the admin part of the show here.
Okay.
Rachel, share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URLs, social media handles. We will put it all in the show notes. And if you can also include the license plate of the Silverado so our listeners can go find that guy.
Hey, at least he stuck around,
That's a good point.
So the best place to find me, the place where I'm most active is on LinkedIn. So I post videos on there, and sometimes I will sing to you. I sang today a little anti-grammar song. And you can also find me on unmutedlife.com. And I'm also active on Instagram at unmutedlife. I would tell you, I'm also on Twitter at unmutedlife, but I pretend to be on Twitter, so we can hang out over there. But I'm learning how to get more active on that platform.
We will put all the links in the show notes. That's awesome. And let permission to head down Fun Street with you.
Let's
Rachel.
do it.
Okay. So we're going to start off with the signature question, because actually before the show, you shared the difficulty you had with this. Do you have an all-time favorite movie?
I don't. My husband makes fun of me. He's like, you do not rewatch movies. I'm like, I know. It's just a thing. I don't have a favorite movie. Like I have a favorite Disney movie. My favorite Disney movie is Sleeping Beauty, but that's the extent of which a favorite movie is.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that could work that way. I mean, these are still movies, and these are things that entertain us. Well, so what about Sleeping Beauty connects the most with you?
Honestly, I don't necessarily have that much of a clue. I was just interested in her kind of reclusive, like being hidden. It's like, so part of it, I guess, when I think about my own journey of like feeling like I was hiding myself, and she was kind of hiding herself, but didn't know it. And she had this like gift that I've never actually thought about Sleeping Beauty so deeply before. So thank you, Lou. But it's like almost like she had this beautiful gift too. And she loved to sing. I loved her voice in that movie. She was a singer. I considered myself as somebody who sang, and just this opportunity. She was so humble. And then she was like kind of found out and discovered and brought into her true identity. And I just think that's a beautiful story.
See, there is something deep in there in movies. This is why we ask this question.
Dude.
All right, Rachel. So we're going to go through the speed round right now, and I'm going to explain how this goes. I'm going to say a word, and this will be interesting because you covered some of these. You're going to provide the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear it. Don't try to think too much about it. Have fun with it. It's all in good. It's all about things that make you feel great. Sound
okay.
Good? Okay. A song that pumps you up. And I think you tapped into this earlier, but
yeah, I can't stop the feeling.
A favorite food that's not a dessert.
Salmon.
A favorite dessert.
And dark chocolate caramels.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Dance.
An activity you wish you did less of.
Work.
If you could snap your fingers and go anywhere, where are you?
An island in the Caribbean.
If the host of Thrive Loud asked you very nicely to sing a song that you love to sing, could you sing it is the first question. And would you sing it would be the next.
I will do anything for you, Lou.
Oh, that's so sweet. So hum a few bars for us. I think our listeners would love it. They got a flavor of it early on in there, but I think it'll be more fun to hit it this way.
Okay. So there's a song by a woman named Desiree called You Gotta Be from the 90s. Okay. You know this song?
I know it.
Okay. All right. So I'll do a little bit of it. This is unplanned, but I'm doing this for you. Okay.
I like it. Our listeners like it much more.
We got it. All right. Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds, try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears, go ahead, release your fears, stand up and be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser, you gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stick together. All I know, love saved the day.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, that is spectacular. That is
Thanks.
On key, on beat, and I love that song. So
I do too.
I dated myself. I'm like, dear God, I love this song, but I listened to it a long time ago.
Like 1995, is that when that came out? I don't know, but I loved it. I sang it at so many times as a kid.
Rachel Druckenmiller, killing it here on Thrive Loud. Cannot be happier to have had you on the show. Very proud that you are truly unmuted, and we will pump that volume up when you're singing that so that it matches up with that. And I hope you had fun today.
I had a blast. This was so fun. Thank you so much.
And to all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Thrive Loud. Check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.